Okay. I cannot go right away and jump right into it. I gotta answer little questions first. So let me look at this. I guess the wiki probably doesn't cover it, does it? Nope. That's something to work on. Definitely. As it stands, though. Okay, we're good. Rapid typing has completed. Okay, so. I don't know what's going on with OBS. OBS, why are you doing things that you do? That's fine. What does matter is, you see this? Run build. Check mark. We're good. It actually works. I didn't freaking launch CurseForge. I knew I was missing something. Gosh darn it. There is actually something I can fix right here while I'm at it. It's in the compat config for bubbles. Because this says set the color scheme for DDD bubble modifiers and tooltips only applies to damage and resistance modifiers, ops 0, 0 and 1. Fair enough. Red, green. Use red when the armor effectiveness is less than 100% and green otherwise. When the modifier. Because armor, I copied this. This is, I got messed. I got got for copying. For copy pasting. and yeah, that happened. Okay, and then let's launch this now. Open this folder. Maybe we'll move this a little closer. Okay, so we got this, and then this needs to be here, yeah, and right in here, right to there, right to here. That's the logs folder. Dang it! I don't. No. Stop. Where is DDD here? I guess it's not here. Okie dokie, whatever, that's fine. Yeah, and then we're just gonna quickly check to see if the Huela improvements have gone through, and then we can basically commit that, get that done, and then move on with our life, which is very important, you know? Waiting for the game to launch, dude, whenever you feel like it. Or maybe you don't. That's cool. You don't have to feel like it, but I am going to make you. So, you know, just, you might as well. Dude, is this thing gonna frickin'... Oh my gosh. Launcher, please. Hey, shush! Shush! I didn't even know what you're talking about. Stop. Why is this randomly showing up in my feed? I should probably play a real playlist. That's what I get for using one of YouTube's auto-generated things. Nice. Good. Okay, clearly this launcher does not want to work. Can you, please? How many times did it launch you for you to get the message to start? Please? Anytime now? I'm gonna stab this launcher so hard, it's not even funny. It finally loaded, thank God. And now it's still gonna take forever. Well, we're gonna be here a bit, waiting for that, so that's lovely. Finally! Hey, okay, here we are. Okay, you factor in your armor now. And you shouldn't. Yeah, you don't. And you shot me. Nice, good. Okay, good. The Huela stuff works. That's all I literally wanted to confirm. I never really checked if there's a typo in the stream title. I don't even care. I didn't even check to see if it worked, but it probably does. Because I did register. I did register it in here. Yeah. Okay, so now let's now we get to do stuff with Electroblobs. Considering everything else works. Now this isn't used anywhere, is it? Oh no, it is. Okay, so now I need another thing here. And now what I need is okay, this is going to be tricky because I need to keep track of the spell that is cast. Okay, what are you doing here? You're doing a bunch of stuff. Um, this is okay. I probably don't need the event handler. Because I need to be able to know what spell is cast. Let's see. So if I subscribe to like a spellcast event, I know the spell's being cast and I know who it's being cast by. I don't think I wrote down anywhere how this would work, probably because I didn't come up with a concrete idea. Let's see. So if I keep track of what spell is cast, I can then get the ID of the spell, use that to map to damage distribution. That part's fine. But then I need to know Hmm. There's a spell properties class. Is that going to be useful? This casting can be cast by, where's packet metadata? What's this? It might be good to know if I can figure out whether the spell will cause indirect wizardry damage or direct wizardry damage. That could be useful. I'm trying to see if I can figure that out. I don't think I can. Which is lovely. Let's look at Magic Missile. Magic Missile's a good one. Or not. Okay, we'll just look at Arc then, that's fine. Okay, there's a magic damage thing that might be useful. Oh, so there's a direct, like, thing for, there's a direct and indirect for each one. Interesting. And this thing here, the configurations for this spell distribution. Reads this. Spell damage distributions only apply to spells that actually inflict damage from Electroblob's Wizardry damage sources. While some spells are able to be configured as either projectile distributions or entity distributions, those spells can be set here as well, and distributions set here will take precedence over those set elsewhere. Basically, just set all spell distributions here. The ID of the spell. Well, if I have the ID of the spell, I don't need to know, I guess. And I guess some spells might, some spells might be, but they might inflict damage sources in multiple ways, I guess. That's fair. Interesting. This is also separate. And what is elemental damage? That could be something that I want to use as instances of a single type, so the damage type field can be accessed rather than have to deal with each of them separately, which would be inefficient and cumbersome. The latter of those classes cannot extend the former because they both need to extend different subclasses. Okay, so you actually implemented an interface so that you could unify them. Good boy. Good boy. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to leave this handler alone. I'm going to put a package in here. This is going to be .dist, and we're going to put Wizardry spell distribution, and this has to extend predefined abstract predefined distribution. I think that's what it needs to extend, right? Enable, get types, get damage distribution. Yep. And what do you do? Get damage distribution. Okay, yeah, and it can return a thing. Insert a constructor. The source is just built-in CT thing. Okay. That's built in. Lycanites, you have distributions, right? You have like a whole bunch of stuff here. You define like your own thing and stuff. Now, I don't think I need to go this far. I don't think it's necessary. Because Because I don't know. Oh, because it's its own, it's got its own stuff, so. I need to know the name. Oh, wait. I get. Bruh. Welcome. We actually are able to do things today, which is good. So we certainly given that a shot. Enabled, this should always be true, right? Yes. And then this is where if it's not elemental damage, I can return sets.new hash set. I was gonna play Man Who Sold the World. Sure, I can do that. Let me give that a shot. Whoops, accidentally muted the tab. Good for me. Excellent. No, unmute the tab, bro. Man Who Sold the World. Sure. Let's do that. A 2010 remaster. Beautiful. So this, if it's not elemental damage, then it's not. Otherwise, we gotta do something. I probably want a private. What am I looking to do here? Okay, so this is the spell. Sure. We'll get the damage source and we'll get the Yeelp, which is the target. And then we're not going to obviously return this, we're just going to return false. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to do if this dot is spell. Well, actually, return this dot is spell. This dot get categories. I mean, it wouldn't have a modifier for this, right? I mean, we'll just do get categories anyway. I can do of nullable, and then I can do this dot is spell this dot this if it is, otherwise null if it's not. And then that'll wrap it as an empty optional. There we go. Now all I need is a way to determine if it's the spell. And this doesn't need any sort of priority nonsense because it doesn't need to go before anything because it just needs to check this thing to be that, which is good. And then also we now need to determine the spell that was cast. Now, there are some... What did I say for this? Set a spell's damage distribution. Spell damage distribution only apply to spells that actually inflict damage from EB Wizardry damage sources. That's fair. While some spells are able to be configured as either projectiles or entity distributions, those spells can be set here as well. Okay, so yeah. Assuming that I know what spells have been cast, how do I now know which spell is the right spell to use here? Beautiful. Thank you for the recommendation. I don't need that. I need to go here. Is fired each tick while a continuous spell is being cast. Fire just has their continuous spell stops being cast. Use this event for anything it needs to know the total time for which a continuous spell has been cast, or should only happen when the spell finishes, as opposed to just after it starts. Um. I guess the real question is, when it comes to damaging spells, can you have multiple damaging spells active at once? Probably. Because you have like the black hole spell, and that's definitely a spell that you define a damage distribution for. So let's take a look. This is an AoE. I'll go back to this. I like that song though, that was good. I mean, causes direct magic damage. And it does this damage and it gives an additional potion effect. What the heck am I trying to do here? Because in the instance of a spell like a magic missile or whatever, I can just keep that for a bit. Track it, basically. Alright, because I have some trackers. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't need that tracker, because that's not going to work, because I don't want to track on, like, living update events. I want to track what spell was being cast. Like I can have an event to track which spell was cast and who cast it. The problem is, what do I do with that information? Alright, I need to do some research. I basically need to just be casting a whole bunch of spells to figure out exactly what I'm tracking, or like what I need to track. Obviously I need to track who's cast the spell, but like when do I stop tracking that spell, for example? And can you have multiple spells active at once? If you can't have multiple spells active at once, then we're kinda good. Like that could make things a little easier, because then I just need to track like the spell that was cast. When it comes to like damaging spells, obviously when it comes to spells like buff spells or whatever, obviously those are gonna persist, but I don't need to care about that because that's not gonna damage anything. So let's go over here. Let's just test over here. Oh, yeah, these are the buff spells and other stuff. Thunderbolt really doesn't need. What do you mean Thunderbolt doesn't need? That's a bunch of baloney. Has no distribution needed. Summons straight up doesn't work. Oh, because these have a this. Right. I see. I see why I did that. This works as intended? What do you mean this works as intended? Oops. What? Did you not? Oh, hi. Um, what do you mean you're not letting me overwrite this thing? Let me overwrite it. Like, it's not freaking complicated. Oh, is it because this is not the right... Oh, it's because it's novice. That explains it. Good. Give me big staff. Where'd that creeper go? Okay, and you were in... I think you were in there, right? Yeah, because it's a projectile, so that's fair. Or no, that was under works as intended. Why was this under works as intended? I have no idea. Yeah, this thing, this black hole thing. No, not this one, dude. That's so dumb. Okay, I'm good. I just sneezed. We're good. Anyway. Yeah, put this shit over here. We don't need it. Got to be on the ground for it to work. Yes. Oh, I freaking marked them. Oh wait, I marked them with other stuff. Right, is this what you're talking about by like... No, cuts the casting time. Can I like move this thing? Interesting. Okay, I should probably stop doing this. Bye. Okay. Okay, but this spell... I don't know if it's continuous. Let's see, and then I can also have this active, which can do different things. So I can have multiple spells because this thing creates a thing that exists. That's really tricky. Because if I just keep track of the most recent spell, then that's not going to work, because then I have the black hole thing that gets created, and then I do like an earthquake spell or whatever, and it's going to be different. is going to create separate effects, which are going to have different damage distributions. So, I need to know which spells have been cast. Some spells create a persistent effect, which is fine. But outside of the ones that create a persistent effect, I need to know I need to be able to categorize a spell when it's being used to damage something. When it's being used to damage something, I need to be able to categorize that spell so that I know which spell damage distribution to use. Now how do we do that? It's one thing to know which spell was cast. It's another thing to know, like, what spell damages something. EB Wizardry doesn't really have a good way to do this. Huh, I definitely need a spellcast event. I have to do a little more digging. I mean, there is the idea that these things create constructs, but just knowing the spell, right? I wanna minimize the amount of things you have to configure, right? Because it could be like, oh, you specify that this spell creates this entity, and then this entity has this damage distribution, and that, sure, that works, but I don't like that. Huh. What is a spell bind event? Fire when a player presses the apply button. Oh, that's not useful. That's not useful. It's like, oh, you could say that then I would know what spells a player could cast, but that's not going to change any any spells they already have active. Huh. That's responsible for storing and keeping track of spell emitters. Oh, that's its own thing. In which to find circumstances in which an I variable persists, but it's carried over. Persists on respawn, persists on dimension change. And we could add... But why would it matter? Because let's say we could add some data into the wizard data because it has its own like variable system of things that can be like injected into it. And I was like, oh, we could inject whatever we need, then just like grab that information and use it. Which, okay, sure, that's something, but what am I putting in there that's going to actually be useful? That's the thing. Like, how do I know if the spell has damaged something? Like, how can I work backwards from the damage source and any entities involved to the spell that was cast to cause that? Hey, what is this? Name register spell, add texture, property, JSON file, add name and description, blah, 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 blah. There's direct damage, there's splash damage, and then there's damage. Okay, but that's just, that's different things. I mean, sure, if the spell has a damage property, then sure, whatever. Actually, what does the black hole spell have as its properties? That might help me. Black hole effect radius. It doesn't even have a damage tag. Really? What do you what do you want me to do here? How can it not have a damage tag if all damage is supposed to be of a specific type? Well, because it's not like the spell. The black hole spell itself does not cause damage. Like casting the spell doesn't cause damage. It's the little black hole that it creates that causes damage. And so as a result, like this damage tag is if the spell itself causes damage. Or if it causes splash damage or if it causes direct damage. and like stuff like that. So the black hole spell obviously does not cause damage like by being cast. It causes damage via the black hole it creates, which is a bit of a problem because now I have to figure out how to differentiate and identify all of this without knowing what spell is being cast. Like, all I have is I have the damage source and I have the target. Now, the damage source has the attacker, which would include the caster, because the caster would be the true source, right? Because when I cast black hole here, why are you like this? It says right here, direct attacker is the black hole, but I am the true attacker. Right, so I would know that it's caused by black hole, but I now need to know that this means that it's a black hole spell without having to have people write it out directly. Like, people, like, DDD needs to know that the direct attacker of black hole means black hole spell. And I could just hard code that, but I would have to hard code it for every single spell where it's relevant, and that does not include any add-on spells added by any EB Wizardry add-ons that could exist, that do exist. So that's not a viable way to do it. Now, if I have the ID of the spell, I could grab the spell and get the type. Okay. Uh... but that still relies a lot on... That still relies a lot on base EB Wizardry, which still kinda wouldn't work with the add-on spells, potentially. It might not work with add-on spells, which is a problem. It depends on how cooked, like, add-on spells are. But, like, I could go into the registry, grab the spell from the registry, like when the game's loading up, right? I know that black hole spell has this distribution, and I also have that spell ID. So when I grab the spell from the registry, I have the distribution, I have the spell there, and then I have to somehow figure out how to determine, based off what I know of the spell, which is very limited, what context it would cause damage in, and then remember that context, and then check if that context is being used, and if it is, well, then I already know the spell and the damage distribution. So now it's like, okay, when given a spell, how do I determine whether the spell is... I basically can only go off of, like, I can't really cast it to other subtypes because I don't know what kind of subtype spells there are going to be, and whether add-on mods are going to add like a completely whole new kind of type of spell, which is possible. And if they do that, then it's not going to work with DD, because DD is not going to be able to recognize that subtype of spell to determine the context in which it might cause damage. So I have to go basically based off of the spell class alone, because that's the thing that they are going to have in common. There is obviously a method to cast the spell. Cast a spell with an origin and direction instead of a caster. Depending on the effect, and I don't know how you'd want to do this, you also make it a variable situation. I think black hole effects always have this, another spell always has that. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wanting to do. But again, I need to be able to do it without having to necessarily have the user specify, oh, this is a black hole. This is a black hole spell. It summons a black hole entity, and it's going to have this damage distribution, right? That's what I want to avoid, because I just want them to say black hole spell, this damage. And then DDD goes, okay, black hole spell. The black hole spell works like this, and so it causes damage like this, which is going to be different from like a firebomb spell. That's going to cause damage in a slightly different way, right? And it references creation material or crafting. Well, because I need to know how the black hole spell does its damage in a generic sense. Can cast by required packets. Metadata, that's the ID, which again doesn't matter because it doesn't matter if it's its registry ID because we already have that basically. Network ID, set ID, get icon, get sounds, get tier, get element. What elements are there? I think there's just a couple of elements. It's an enum, yeah. Magic, fire, ice, lightning, necromancy, earth, sorcery, healing. Those are the spell types, and that is a hard and fast list. Any spell, even added by add-ons, have to be of those types because it's an enum, which is fine. That's something, but all I can now determine is, okay, this is a black hole spell, it's a sorcery spell. Can you not, dude? And that this is a earth spell, sorcery spell. That's basically what I can determine from that, which, again, not really useful. And then the type of spell, it can be a utility spell, or what else can it be? It can be an attack spell, a defense spell, a utility spell, a minion spell, a buff spell, a construct spell, a projectile spell, or an alteration spell. And those are the only types that are possible. Which, again, okay, that's interesting. Because the black hole spell is a construct spell. Right? And then that's a minion spell, that's a projectile spell, that's a buff spell, that's utility spell, utility spell. Alright, and then there's like down like here, this is where we're gonna find black hole. Black hole, it's a sorcery construct spell. Cool. And I can also get its tier, which is master. That tier is not really gonna be relevant, but it's a bunch of information on like how the what the spell is, but not like how the spell is. Y'all ask what the spell is, but no one asks how the spell is. This is its translation methods. Matches. What is, wait, what is this matches? Returns whether this spell matches a given string. Client side only. Matches are determined as follows. First, attempt to parse a string as one or more conditions separated by semicolons. Each condition has a syntax, blah, 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 where the key... Why is this client side only? This sounds like this could maybe be useful. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it is, so we're gonna have to figure that one out. Let's just play this. Where was I? Just like a moment ago. Okay. Returns whether this spell matches a given string. Client side only. Matches are determined as follows. I hate that this is client side only. But it's probably client side only for a certain reason, which I'm probably going to learn as I read it. First, attempt to parse the string as one or more conditions separated by semicolons. Tells me what a semicolon is. Each condition has the syntax code key equals value 1, value 2, value 3, where key is one of several predefined strings or aliases pointing to a particular property of the spell, and each value is a string to match to that property. Valid keys are tier, element, type, mod ID, discovered. Specifies the tier that the spell can match, specifies the elements that the spell can match, specifies the spell types that the spell can match, specifies the mod IDs that the spell can match, that the spell can be from. The spell must match all conditions to count as a match, but only needs to match one of the values for each condition. If at any point a condition is not a valid syntax, or if the string does not contain semicolon or equals, the input is instead treated as verbatim, and the spell matches if it has been discovered and its localized name contains the given string. Keys are case sensitive, but everything else is not. Okay, good for you. I don't fucking know what that is. Returns whether the spell is enabled. Returns true if the given item has a variant for the spell. By default, return. Okay, I don't even freaking know what that is. Set which items the spell can appear on. These default to the regular spell book and scroll. Compare to. Spells are sorted according to their tier and element. Where several spells of the same tier and element, they will remain in the order they were registered. Returns the total number of registered spells, including the none spell. Returns the same number that would be returned by spell.getAllSpells.size. This method is more efficient. Gets a spell instance from its integer metadata, which corresponds to its ID in the spell registry. If the given metadata has no spell assigned to it, then the none spell will be returned. Again, if I can just get that from thing, then that's useful. Returns a spell with the given registry name or null if no such spell exists. This is really only intended for cases where the user has input a name and may have omitted the mod ID for spells in the base mod. Otherwise, use get registry value by resource location. The registry name of the spell, the form, yeah, whatever. Get spell names. Return a list of all registered registry names, excluding the non-spell using commands. Okay. Get spells. Turns a list containing all the spells matching the given predicate. The returned list is separate from the internal spells list. I mean, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I could do all that, but a predicate which allows all enabled spells of the given tier and element. That's a thing. And then we have event handlers. And that's it. Gosh darn it. Because when a spell is cast, let me find a spell that I have open here. That's indirect managed damage. That's that. That's spell properties. Did I close the thing? Alright, whatever, I did. Let's go with spell arrow or something. That's probably fine. Spell arrow. It's a spell. Generic superclass for all spells which launch directed projectiles. Calculate velocity, and then you cast a spell, and it creates a thing. And it's like the same thing 3 times. What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, let's look at the arc spell for a second. It summons a little ray, and then it just has an on-entity hit where it does that damage. Right, and so it's like, for some of these spells, wherever I think it's over here. Yes, it is. Right, for these spells, you can just specify... You can just specify the... You can specify, like, what it does. Or, like, the entity that it spawns or whatever that, like, does damage. Alright, but see, that one says that I'm the direct attacker, and so then it becomes bludgeoning damage. Alright, and then this one, this arc... I hate how you have to press escape to close out, that's so dumb. Right, I just right-click them and I do damage, but it says it's me. All that it knows is that it is wizardry magic. Not indirect, direct, that's for sure. But it needs to know what that spell is. When I do this, it needs to know what spell I just cast. Now, again, there is an event to listen to know what spell was cast, and that's definitely going to be part of this here. But now I need to know that not only was this spell cast, but it is the spell that's causing damage. It's one thing to know what spell was cast. It's another thing to know if the spell was actually the thing that caused damage. Because, you know, the spell could whiff, obviously. Or the spell could not be a spell that causes damage, or not be the spell that caused damage in that context. How do I figure this shit out? By just knowing the damage source, which is going to have... Which is going to have this. It's going to have wizardry magic, and that wizardry magic... Like, it would be so much easier if the damage source stored a reference to the spell that caused the damage. We would be fucking fine. Because I can just... cast it to whatever type it is, but I don't think... Yeah, because all this has is the damage type, and whether it was retaliatory. The damage type being, shock in this case, but there's a whole bunch of potential shock spells that it could be, right? So that's not even very identifying. Get indirect damage name for type, get direct damage name for type. Cause indirect magic damage, cause direct magic damage. Oh my gosh, dude, I don't even know. Wizardry Utilities. Now, maybe there's a class called Wizardry Utilities. I don't know. Let's see. And if there is, you better... There is not. Unless Wizardry Utilities was an old class. Methods used to be part of Wizardry Utilities. Okay, Wizardry Utilities was broken up. That's fine. That's fair. Location. Simple wrapper class that stores block pause and integer dimension ID. That's fine. Entity utils. And useful static message for retrieving and interacting with players. Yeah, okay, that's not really helpful. MBT extras, magic. So the magic damage does not have... A note on the use of the vanilla damage sources. When using indirect damage sources, the second argument is the original entity, i.e. the caster, and the first argument is the actual projectile, or whatever does the damage. Get true source will return the original entity, get immediate source will return the projectile. Yeah, we know that. The vanilla approach to damage types is inconsistent, to say the least. Poison is simply magic, and relies on entity living base dot is potion applicable to determine whether an entity is affected or not. Wither, on the other hand, is its own damage type, but again relies on the potion to determine what is immune, which in vanilla is nothing. That's not even true. Withers and wither skeletons are immune, but whatever. Fire has a proper implementation, of course, with both block-based and projectile-based types, and any other damage source can also be designated as fire damage with set fire damage. Likewise, projectile and explosion damage can also be applied to any damage source, but these aren't considered types in their own right, rather they seem to be damage type attributes. This is my attempt to collect all of these into a reasonably coherent system. Which is wonderful. How do I use this reasonably coherent system? As of Wizardry 1.1, this class has replaced the damage source related methods in Wizardry Utilities, allowing a damage type to be specified with the damage. The main reason for this is so that damage sources can fit within the vanilla behavior on armor enchantments such like and such like whilst still being classified as wizardry damage for the purposes of friendly fire, etc. In the future, there is scope for an entirely standalone mod based on this idea. Perhaps elemental damage could be a configure-only mod which allows its users to define any number of specific damage types, then give any creature resistance, immunity, or vulnerability to each. That's just DDD. They're just describing DDD in their code comments. What the hell? As well as being able to specify the sources for each type, such as enchantments, potions, specific items, certain entities, or even particular situations, and string damage source names from other mods. They're just describing DDD here. What the heck? That's really funny. Is there scope, though? Because I need to know what... Clearly, I can't do it the way I'm thinking of doing it. What the fuck happened to you, bro? Are you okay? Probably not. This makes... I don't understand. Is it you? Yeah, it was a creeper. The charged creeper apparently broke things. So I need to do a slightly different system. I need to differentiate spells that cause damage directly and spells that don't cause damage directly. Why, how, what? I can't even answer any of them because I don't even know. I think like the shader that was applied over a creeper to give it the charged look. Good. I like walking off cliffs. Like interfered with the sign somehow. That's weird. So I need to differentiate the different spells. I need to differentiate them more granularly. Right, so like this lightning sigil, right? Let's say I put this lightning sigil here. Right, and then then this is going to... It puts that there, right? And then this... They take damage. And it says it is from EB Wizardry Lightning Sigil. Works as intended, has no distribution needed. Why does this not have a needed distribution? Is it because it just causes fire damage? Not you. You. Oh, because it like actually sets them on fire. Oh, this is interesting. So I need to differentiate construct-based spells from attack-based spells. Bye, idiot. Need to differentiate, because utility-based spells aren't going to do any damage. But look at this. This doesn't... You try to create a coherent system, but then this construct spell, because snare is a construct spell. No, snare is an attack spell. Okay, snare is an attack spell. Well, the problem is that how can I even know that this does... Like, this should probably do, like, piercing damage or something. I don't know. That seems to make sense. But again, there is no way to know that that spell... how do I define the context for this? How do I find the context for, yeah, this should do piercing damage when you come into contact with it? And again, I want to limit hard-coding the individual spells because that's not easy. It ends up getting extremely complicated. Obviously, this is some kind of... This is a block. This is snare. Okay. But like, what do you even do with that information? Because the snare spell itself is not responsible. Again, this is not responsible for anything. It sets down a snare block, but like, that's it. What kind of spell are you? Like, obviously you're a construct spell. We know that much. But register new snare. What do you... You are a ray spell. How are you a ray spell? Okay, because I guess you can put it... You can actually put it decently far away. You don't have to be... Well, I can set it, like, way over there, and I... Okay, that's... I guess I see why it's a ray spell. Oh my gosh, this is not gonna be easy. I want to minimize the edge cases here, because the less edge cases I have, the better this will work for add-on spells. Now, there is an idea, and that is to mix into individual wizardry classes to be able to know, like, when they do things, and that, like, doesn't even help me. I thought maybe it would, but I wanted to avoid it. No, it just straight up doesn't even help me, because in that situation, like, it's like, that doesn't account for this. That doesn't do anything for this spell, the snare spell. Because the snare summons a block, and the block does damage. But the block doesn't do damage the way a cactus does damage. The block does damage. Like, why can't this just be like cactus? It just does damage as if it were me punching them. Which means, again, if you want to add add-on spells, and your spell does something like this, you know, I would need a config for wizardry blocks that do damage. I would need wizardry blocks that do damage, and then there's the constructs that do damage, and then there's the spells that normally do damage, and for those spells, I keep track of the, like, most recent spell that was cast, and then like, I keep track of it for, like, that moment. I need to keep track of it for just that moment. And then I need to forget it. Just when it's cast. What spell are you trying to... Oh, you're trying to Earthquake. And this is... like, construct ranged, much like Black Hole is. Yeah, just like that. So those construct spells... Again, there has to be a config for, like, these like, construct spells. And, like, the damage they cause. And basically... it would have to know, like, which projectile, which things, like, do damage, and which things don't do damage. There's gonna be multiple config lists. There's gonna be a config list for, like, blocks, like this. There's going to be a config list for constructs, like this. And the black hole. And there's gonna be a config list for... You know what? Probably can't have everything unified under one the config list. Probably because it just doesn't work. So I probably need the individual, like the projectile spells have to go into the projectile config. The entity spells that summons things like a black hole or whatever have to go into the regular damage distribution, like mob distribution configs. Except those aren't... those aren't living entities, so they actually... if they were in the config, they wouldn't get... They aren't living entities, so they wouldn't get a viable damage distribution. So I would need a separate config for the constructs. I need a separate config for the blocks. The projectiles go in the projectiles, and then I have a separate thing for, like, attack spells. Okay, what spells are those? I feel like this is the best way to do this. So this, so this is the spell disc config. This is the block-based config. Coin fig. This is the construct slash entity config. And that's all I got. So block-based config, that's where snare's gonna go. Spell disc config, okay, so this construct, and then I guess we have like another chest here, and it's like nothing needed. And technically the fire sigil goes here because it just sets things on fire. The lightning sigil goes into the construct config. This goes into the spell disc config, because this thing just does that. This goes in the construct and entity config, and then this technically goes in the construct and entity config. Clash in around 220. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Oh wait, yeah, and then projectile. Or did I already have that? No, I didn't. Okay. Projectile config. Okay, so, a fireball, that's projectile, that's projectile, that's projectile, that's a projectile, but like that doesn't need to be in there, 'cause it doesn't do anything. Lightning sigil is a construct or entity-based config. I have 2 lightning sigils. Okay, fair enough. Lightning arrow, frost sigil, what do you do? Okay, so you just go in the project or the construct config. What about these things? Get out of here. Okay, that's spark. Spark bomb. Okay, it's these go in here. Wait, no? Huh. It's like, which ones are projectiles, which ones are not projectiles? I don't know, I'd have to look into the code for that, probably. I could just put them into here. And it's like, okay, these create some kind of entity that causes damage. This creates a block that causes damage. This just does damage. And these spells are fine. This spell is fine. Like a furnace, wither, enrage, ice statue. Ice statue? What? Oh, it just turns things to an ice statue. What do you do if you're like that? Oh, you just go there, okay. What am I looking at? Oh, I'm looking at ice statue. That makes sense. Okay. Hi! Welcome to the stream. So that does not mean anything. And a firebomb. A firebomb? I guess just does fire damage. Why does this not need anything? That's a bunch of baloney. Mind trick, freeze, smoke bomb, ignite. Those I could understand. You. Oh, this is actually like mine a block. Okay, that's I thought it was create a mine. Direct attacker, entity to EB Wizardry to ice ball that name. Okay, so it's ice ball. Okay. Wizardry Thunderbolts. Okay, so those two definitely go into the construct and entity config. Boop boop. And this is fine. And then this, the firebomb. What is this? Does this just set things on fire? No, it doesn't. I spell name does piercing. Oh wait, but this is fire. Wait, what? This is fire? Put this here. Okay, it's 5 fire damage. Okay, so that's just fine. That's intended. Okay, this is the snare book, which I don't need. These ones, there's like really no other good way to do this. And then this does damage, just bludgeoning damage. I mean, for that, it's probably fine, but it doesn't cause damage instantly. Really? If I go... Okay, chill. So I can only send myself horizontally. That's interesting. But like... When I damage something with this... I do bludgeoning damage. Oh boy. Oh boy. It's different than just right-clicking them and then just doing that. Okay, that one's fine. That one works as intended. Frost Ray. And this might take some time to connect. Yeah. Okay, so I can't just, like, remember it just when the spell is cast, or, like, just for the tick the spell is cast. I have to remember it for, like, a couple ticks afterwards. But fundamentally, these spells that are like this... I could do this and this and this. Right, if I have something like this and I have you like that. Right, or I might not have been close enough for you. Point is that before the Frost Ray hits, I can cast another ray-based spell on another target. That's so dumb. I mean, like, it's not dumb because, like, it's bad or anything. It's dumb because now, how am I gonna know? Like, if this goes and hits a thing, and then before it hits a thing, I lightning bolt something, then when that thing hits a thing, because all it says is that I'm the direct attacker and the indirect attacker, how am I gonna know what kind of damage it's gonna do? I could try and get the damage type and be like shock, and then shock could just be like lightning damage. But let's see, where... Right, because it does damage type shock. This means that I am not able to differentiate between these spells. I can only differentiate based off the damage type. Which is great if you want all lightning spells to do exclusively lightning damage. Thank you for your resub. I appreciate you a lot. Your support's always very appreciated, and I'm glad you're having a good time. I hope it's been worth it. Okay, what different damage types are there? No, go to... Okay, fine, go to the magic damage, whatever. It's an enum with magic, fire, frost, shock, wither, poison, force, blast, and radiant. I can probably only go based off this. This is probably the best I can do. Is just go off the damage type, map the damage type to a certain DDE damage type, and just go like that. But that means that things like this charge spell here will do lightning damage. Maybe you don't want them to do lightning damage, but they're doing lightning damage instead of bludgeoning damage, and that's what you get. And it's like, but maybe that's not really what you want. And the fact of the matter is that there really is no other choice here. Now the snare spell, that's what I want to know. What's up with that? Because it gets the snare block. It could be that you define, for like these construct / entity things, you could maybe be a little more specific if you wanted to. Right? Like maybe you want this to do piercing damage, because it's just a dart, instead of whatever it's normally associated with as like a damage type. Let's take a look at the snare. If the tile entity doesn't have a caster, then it's just cactus. Otherwise, it's damage type to magic. Are you freaking serious? So if I were to just set this makes no sense, dude. Set block right there. Snare right there. Right? And now if you drop on it, it does piercing damage. But if you drop on this one, it does bludgeoning damage. Why is that a thing? I hate that. What other blocks you have? You have a meteor. What the heck? Runestone. Blah 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 blah. Okay. What is this meteor? Does it cause damage? Nope. It's just here. Probably used as a, like an effect or something. This is the only damage-based block, but other add-ons might introduce more damage-based blocks. So I would need a block-based config still for snare, and then I need to have a special little thing that detects if you've been damaged by snare or if you came into contact with snare. Because this says it extends block and it overrides on entity collision. And I guess I could get its registry ID and then that would get me snare. I have a couple of options. I could try and figure out like what causes the damage. Let me see. Let me see. Does this have any community I can reach? There is a community. There is an Electroblob's Wizardry community. Okay, maybe I need to figure that out. Let's go to the Curse Forge. That doesn't even lead to where it's supposed to lead. Why doesn't this lead to where it's supposed to lead? This is a different URL, it's a different link. Added damage type per element setting, disabled by default. What? What is this? Spell configuration? Oh, that's just to enable / disable spells. Yeah, that's fair. Mod compatibility settings. Damage source blacklist. Those of damage source string identifiers to ignore when reapplying damage case sensitive. A message will be logged with damage added to this list, otherwise don't you? Okay. Blah 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 blah. That's good. Okay. Resistance configuration. Yeah, that's fine. Artifact configuration. That's whatever that is. Replace vanilla fall damage. Whether to replace Minecraft's distance-based fall damage calculation with an equivalent velocity-based one. This is done such that mobs in free fall will take exactly the same damage as normal, so it will not break falling-based mob farms. Disable this to experience falling-relating weirdness. With this disabled, some spells revert to a more simplistic method. Yeah, okay, whatever. What is going on here? Difficulty settings. Gameplay settings? Damage type per element. What is this? Whether damage should be registered with the old system, prefixed prefixed damage with the elements like necromancy, indirect wizard magic, necromancy, wizard magic. This is wait, what is this? This is disabled by default to not break existing mod packs. The intention of this setting is to allow differentiating various damage types for e.g. distinct damage descriptions. God damn it. You fucking legend. You fucking legend, you. This was added years ago. Then I don't need to do anything. Just set damage type per element and just, like, call it there? Probably? Hopefully? Probably what I do is I, join their Discord, and then I ask, like, hey, is there a way that we could get a little tiny something where when someone's taking damage from a spell, I can actually reference back to the exact spell that caused the damage? Because if we could do that, then we're good. The intention of this setting is to allow differentiating various damage types. Now that is useful. Who suggested this? This is interesting. Okay, what have you contributed to this repository? When was this released? Oh, this was released in 2023. Okay, go back. Added damage type per element setting. So then they've already decided that there's going to be compat. And that's how they have decided that the compat is going to be. Where you have a damage type per element setting, and then you just do that. And that's just how that's going to be. That's life, bro. That's life. Okay, I'm fine with that. It saves me all this trouble. Basically, damage type per element, enable that. Well, if damage type per element is enabled. Huh. Clearly. Someone has looked at these two mods together before and went, how do? And now I am here 3 years later being like, how do? I think being able to reference the spell that was cast is useful and nice and like ideal, sort of. But if that's too invasive of a change, then this system works. And probably that is too invasive of a change because of add-on mods and stuff, which I'm trying to keep in mind here. Okay, so then I don't even worry about that. It's like a non-issue. We just have that, and then we just have a thing where we map each damage type to an element. And then I specify what that element should be. Like, then you specify the damage distribution of what that element should be. And then the spells, they cause that kind of damage. Right? And so that seems to make sense. And I'm okay with that. That works for me. It saves me a lot of trouble. So I'll do that, and then I'll see if I can reach out to the community and not only like get their input, but like figure out specifics. Okay, I got an idea. We make this abstract, right? And we still have this damage distribution, but we also have damage type to match the damage type. Right. A bada boom. A bada bing. And that does that, and then this is this, and then this might not need to be abstract. I don't know. This probably does not need to be abstract. Whatever, leave it for now. If it's not that, then we return that. Otherwise, is there like Wizardry config? Huh. I need to know what, where that config stuff is stored. Okay, item loot miscellaneous. Nope. Be dupe. Probably in settings. Yes, probably in settings. Settings dot, compatibility category dot. What do you mean? It's config file. Do 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 do. Where are you? Why are you? Oh, that's just a string. Set up compatibility config. All those integration, GI, do 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 do. Wasn't it in the compatibility? Maybe it wasn't in the compatibility. I thought it was in the compatibility thing. Oh, maybe it's in the tweaks category. Okay, then it's definitely in the gameplay. Yeah, it's in the gameplay. Yes, it's in the gameplay. It's in the gameplay. Wait, how do I get the settings? Get me the settings. To access individual settings, use Wizardry.settings. Okay. Dot settings dot damage type per element. If that is enabled, then the damage type then if source dot I can return source you know what? Return source dot damage type dot equals if wizardry dot settings dot damage type per element, then magic damage dot I would like to know if it is direct or indirect. It probably I probably just cast it, right? Maybe. Actually, what I could do is I can just do if wizardry dot settings dot damage type per element. If that's true, then what I can do is I can do source dot damage type dot split on an underscore, index that at 0 and check to see if it equals this dot wizardry type dot name dot to lowercase. Otherwise, we're going to return this dot. I'm gonna cast this thing. Elemental damage. Source dot get type dot equals this dot wizardry type. I guess I don't need the target in this context. And how did Lycanites want to do this here? Lycanites set up the distributions, and then here you just registered it in here, right? Yeah, in it. You got all of them, and then you loaded everything you needed, and then you registered them. So then on init, I'm going to load everything because the config thing is going to do its thing. Okay, I guess we're gonna go into the config for you, and we're not gonna worry about you right now. That doesn't exist, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. And how many damage types are there? Magic, Fire, Frost, Shock, Wither, Poison, Force, Blast, Radiant. Type is Wizardry damage type. Um, and then T comma A is a comma separated list of tuples that creates a valid creature. Yes, I'm very good. A valid damage distribution. As described in the damage category. Configs. Must add up to 1. Types not listed here will do force damage. Malform entries will be ignored. No, go here. Compat category electroblobs wizardry category category minion resistances. That's what it is. Is it spell type dist? Spell type distributions. Distributions. Frost and shock. As poison, and we have force, which I think is just gonna be force. I mean, I guess it could maybe be bludgeoning, but force makes sense to be force. And magic makes sense to be force. But I guess it could be something else. I don't know. And that'll be bludgeoning. And then radiant is just gonna be radiant. Well, spell damage type distributions. Spell damage type distributions. Spell type, that's what I did. I did spell type distributions. Spell type distributions. Oh, that's because this needs to be a string array. Whoops. Okay, now this thing has its own... It doesn't. I thought it had its own configurator. No, because these are... Wait, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You have your own configurator. It's a single string reader, but whatever. I need to make a config reader. Wait, didn't I already make... Oh, I made a minion configurator. Right. I don't know what this is going to extend. I just know that it's going to be final. And it's going to... oh, it should extend... Damage distribution config reader. Because you just read it and you do that, which is probably what we want you to do. This clearly has subtypes. Okay, maybe only that one then. I guess it wants a constructor to make. Well, it's a damage distribution configurator, so it's doing that constructor, and then it's the configuration, which I guess it's populating it into. Yeah, I don't even need to I don't even need this. Because this is this is all I need here. Configuration. Damage distribution. I probably just want to call it spell type dist, honestly. Just call it spell type dist. And set it to just be a base configuration, because we don't need anything super complicated about that. And basically, I will use this configuration on load to create the predefined distributions and then register those. Yeah, but we're not wrapping it with this thing. That's unnecessary. Spell type distribution. And then this is going to be spell damage type distributions. And this is going to go into spell type dist. Basically. And then, I don't know, we're gonna do something with that. Where I don't need this anymore. Yeah, we're good. Just get rid of it. Configurations dot spell type dist dot for each, and then entry media registries dot distributions dot register. Well, I need to damage type dot turns to enum constant specify enum type of specified name. Names must match exactly and identify use to declare an enum constant in this type. Extraneous white space characters are not permitted. Blah blah blah. Just do value of damage type dot class, and the name is going to be entry dot get key dot to uppercase. Oh, I guess this should be enum. Okay, I guess I could do damage type dot value of type dot value of, and then just like pass in this. Now this is just going to I guess I gotta put it in a try catch. That is the only way this works. Legal argument exception E. I can probably save myself a bit there. Entry.getKey to uppercase. Let's throw that over here. Then put the name here. Then put the name here. Now I want to do DDD registries dot distributions dot register new wizardry where's the distribution that I had for this thing? Wizardry spell distribution. Distribution. Sure, I guess you... type dot name. Or, we'll just do type dot toString. And then we don't need to specify that. We just gotta specify that. So it's gonna take the type, and it's gonna take the entry dot get second, or get value, whatever, same diff. Oh, probably because that needs to be public. Why you set it to protected? Why are you like this? Where did you go? You clicked something and you went somewhere. So, like, this is definitely a way this can be done. There might be a better way. But this works. I might wrap early just to look into this a little more. Yeah, sure, save spell handler. It's not really doing anything, so it's not really a problem. Again, I don't really know if this is really gonna work super well. I mean, it probably does. But I am curious if there's like a more dynamic way to define it. Or maybe I just leave it like that and basically just kind of wipe my hands and go, that's kind of the best that can be done. But if it would be possible to know the spell that was used to cause damage, then, that could be good. Did it even, no, we're not even there yet. Registering projectile pair. Registering distribution, magic, poison, frost, shock, fire, force, wither, radiant blast. Yay, okay, so it loaded it. Good. Now, does it actually work is the question. Hopefully, probably. But again, this is not going to. Oh, that just does force damage. Because it just uses regular magic, which... Okay, except for the fact that when you set the block and use it, it's going to use the cactus distribution, which is... interesting. And that just got classified as lightning damage. As to that... which is neat and everything. Where's my... Where's my black hole? Give me a black hole. Okay, go over here, set this thing down. That's not the right spell. This does force damage now. I mean, ain't no way that should be doing any other damage, so... It's technically functional. Maybe a little bit more can be done to make it a little bit better. Or maybe this is as good as we get. I don't know. But that works for me. So I'm just gonna wrap it here. I'm gonna see if I can do a little bit more research, a little bit more looking into it. I'm not gonna say that like, oh, Electroblob's Wizardry compat is done per se, because I don't really think it is. I think that definitely I have to check to see if there's like more that can be done and stuff like that. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. I've got a whole bunch of new stuff tomorrow. Taking a break from some Minecraft stuff just because I don't really have any like fun Minecraft ideas that I want to do, so I'm doing other stuff for a bit. So tomorrow will be a little experimental, but please join me for that. I think it'll be fun. So yeah, that's everything I got. All right.